Okay, our next question is this. How guarded should you be when you date someone with the intent of marriage? There's a desire to cover sort of singleness and dating, as well as also I like the follow-up statement. Just hey, help remind us that our value and worth is found in Jesus, even in God-honoring relationships. That chief identity is in Him. Absolutely, like. Our dating relationship, even our marriage status, doesn't determine our status before our God. Our relationship with Him is first and foremost, and He has made some awesome claims about who we are in Him. So don't be consumed sort of in these secondary identities. Lock in that chief identity as a child of God if you're a believer in Jesus Christ. And so really get excited about that. I would say this, how guarded should you be? I'd say this goes back to the real commitment level of that relationship. It's a lot different. If you have a ring on your finger, like I do, that's a lot different commitment and a real commitment than, hey, I've been DMing this person on Snapchat and we've been doing that for like 2 days and I think this person's really cute and funny and all that. There's different levels, and so too in those different levels of commitment, there's different levels of intimacy at those stages. Again, being engaged is different than a first date. I don't really buy into non-real commitment. What I'd say is like a promise ring. I would say that's not a real commitment. I'd say I love you and I'm never going to leave you in a moment for somebody that just went in on a first date is not real commitment. So there should be real substantial commitment that backs up the levels of intimacy in a relationship. So early on, when you're just talking, I don't know if that's what the youth still say, but when you're sort of talking in those early stages, be really careful. Be really guarded not to, I'll say this, guys do this too, but ladies can tend to get really highly emotionally connected with a guy, and the guy may be DMing 10 other ladies because there's no commitment, there's no backing to that, there's no exclusivity to all of that, and so just be really careful early on. You're trying to get to know somebody. A guy should really step up if he's just been messaging you on social media and hasn't stepped up to actually ask you on a date after 3 weeks to a month. Ladies, cut bait and run. But if you're if there's some commitment there, even a date, not just talking, but saying, hey, I'd love to take you out on a date, like a real date sometime. Like that's a different level of commitment than somebody that's just texting you or messaging you. Like there's some follow through with that. And I think that's the key thing, some follow through. Somebody that's engaged, there's a follow through. Like, hey, I'm giving you a ring and I'm saying I want to marry you. That's a different level. If there's zero real commitment, just guard all those levels, whether it's spiritual, whether it's emotional or relational, and definitely sexual intimacies. There's so much heartbreak that happens on those early stages where somebody is like all in and they're putting everything into this time when they're just talking, and then the other person just, in an instant, they're out. So real commitment sort of looks like that, I would say. Be wise just in the midst of that. Dating for a year is different than dating for a week, and engagement obviously is further than that. Dating for a long time does not mean that your sexual intimacy is going up. Like, understand your intimacies appropriately. Like, man, that sexual intimacy is really reserved for marriage. Just because you're engaged doesn't mean that you should, hey, all of a sudden we can have sex because we said we'd marry each other. I know plenty of people that have called off engagements. So it's not that sort of level. You're being really careful of, like, while you are exclusive in your relationship, you still have solid friends and family invested and knowing what's going on. It's not like this person suddenly becomes your accountability partner and you just have this, and you're doing Bible studies, just the two of you all the time. And that spiritual intimacy is just crazy high, and you're not really interacting with anybody of the same gender for accountability or spiritual growth. It's just this significant other. And then all of a sudden your relationship ends and you're devastated. those are some of the areas that you can really get off. And so having some good balance in that, just really wise. So to conclude, I'd say, hey, progressively, some of those intimacies can increase. Engaging in nothing that you'd be ashamed, embarrassed, or feel guilty about to tell a future spouse. So don't treat your boyfriend and girlfriend like your spouse until that person says, I will on your wedding day, and you have said, I will on your wedding day. Up until that point, just go measured as the commitment level of the relationship is. Okay, thanks for the question.